What happens when a fan-favorite comedian steps onto a daytime talk show and completely dismantles the host using nothing but raw, unapologetic honesty? You're about to see exactly that, because what unfolded between Joy Behar and Leanne Morgan on The View was nothing short of ruthless. Before we jump into this jaw-dropping moment, be sure to hit subscribe and leave a comment below, because this one goes off the rails fast. Joy Behar sat at the table wearing that familiar, self-satisfied look, the kind that suggested she controlled the conversation and everyone around it. Her carefully styled hair glimmered beneath the studio lights as she flipped through her notes, gearing up for what she clearly believed would be another effortless segment. In her mind, this was just one more chance to flaunt her so-called comedic dominance. The producers had invited Leanne Morgan, a fast-rising name in country comedy, and Joy assumed this would be an easy exchange where she could outshine a small-town comic without breaking a sweat. "All right, everyone, we're back," Joy announced with her trademark dramatic flair. "I'm sitting here with Leanne Morgan, who seems to think jokes about small-town life qualify her as the next big star in comedy. So Leanne, sweetheart, tell our audience why your little stories are such a big deal." Every syllable carried a hint of mockery. Joy's co-hosts shifted awkwardly, already sensing the tension brewing at the table. Leanne, dressed simply yet tastefully in a way that felt genuine rather than produced, smiled politely. But there was something in her eyes that made it clear. She'd already sized Joy up. "Well, Joy," Leanne replied in her soft Tennessee drawl, "I guess what makes my comedy different is that it's rooted in real life, real people, real struggles, real moments. Not everybody has to put on a front or talk down to others just to get a laugh." Joy's grin slipped for a heartbeat before she recovered. "Oh, come on. Real comedy takes intelligence and refinement. Anyone can ramble about their hometown and get a few laughs from folks who don't know better. You know what I find funny, Joy?" Leanne leaned forward slightly, her tone still kind, but sharpened just enough to catch attention. "I've watched this show for years, and I keep waiting for you to say something truly funny instead of just something cruel." The room went dead quiet. You could almost hear the studio breathing stop as Joy's face flushed. For someone whose reputation was built on cutting remarks and quick jabs, this gentle country comedian had just turned the tables without raising her voice. "Excuse me?" Joy snapped, her voice jumping higher. "I've been doing comedy longer than you've been alive. Don't come onto my show and start lecturing me about humor." "Oh, honey," Leanne said calmly. "I'm not lecturing, I'm just noticing. Where I'm from, we were taught that being nasty isn't the same thing as being funny. But maybe that's just those small-town values." Joy's hands tightened on the table. "Small-town values? You mean small-minded thinking. Comedy is supposed to challenge people, make them uncomfortable. It's not all sunshine and smiles like your folksy little act." "You're right, Joy. Comedy does challenge people," Leanne replied with a nod. "So let me ask, when was the last time you told a joke that brought people together instead of tearing them apart? When did you last make someone feel better about themselves?" The question hung heavy in the air. Joy opened her mouth, then closed it again. For the first time in years, she had no comeback. The woman known for razor-sharp retorts had been silenced by a straightforward, sincere question. Whoopi Goldberg tried to step in, clearly hoping to steer things back on track. "Well, this is getting interesting. Let's talk about your tour, Leanne." But Joy wasn't ready to let it go. "Hold on, are you seriously trying to teach me about comedy? Do you even know who you're talking to? I've been on television longer than you've been cracking jokes at church gatherings or wherever it is you perform." Leanne's smile stayed steady. "Church halls, clubs, theaters, it doesn't really matter, Joy. What matters is remembering why you started. Comedy is meant to heal people, not wound them." "Oh, please," Joy shot back, completely losing her composure. Save the feel-good lecture. Comedy is about truth, and the truth is, not everyone belongs in this business. Some people should stay on their little local circuits instead of trying to play with the big girls. The audience shifted uncomfortably as Joy's hostility became unmistakable. Leanne, however, remained serene, letting Joy's own words do the damage. Big girls. Leanne echoed softly, her tone changing just enough to command attention. You know what real big girls do, Joy? They don't tear others down to feel important. They lift people up. Joy scoffed. This isn't kindergarten. This is show business. If you can't handle criticism, maybe you should crawl back to whatever small-town open mic you came from. Criticism? Leanne tilted her head, genuinely puzzled. Is that what you call this? Because where I come from, we call it being ugly, for no reason. The audience leaned in. Even the cameras seemed closer now as Joy's co-hosts exchanged anxious looks, sensing what was coming next. And since you mentioned criticism, Leanne continued, her voice still gentle but unflinching. Let me share some of my own. Your entire career has been built on punching down. You mock people who can't push back. You ridicule those without a platform to defend themselves. And you call that comedy? Leanne continued. Because real comedy, Joy, real comedy, punches up. It challenges power, not people who are just trying to get by. Joy's face flushed deep red. How dare you come onto my show and try to psychoanalyze me? You don't know anything about my career, or what I've achieved. Oh, I know enough, Leanne replied with a soft smile. I know you've spent years making jokes at the expense of everyday people. I know you believe being from New York somehow makes you smarter than everyone else. I know you've built a whole persona around being the mean girl who never grew out of it. And honestly, Joy, that's just sad. Sad? Joy snapped, her voice wavering. I'm successful. I have a career. I have influence. What do you have? A handful of YouTube clips and some county fair shows? Leanne laughed, and it was the most genuine laugh heard on The View in years. You know what I have, Joy? I have audiences who walk out of my shows feeling lighter than when they walked in. I have people who tell me my jokes help them survive hard seasons in their lives. I have the respect of my fellow comedians because I treat people with kindness. Can you honestly say the same? The silence that followed was crushing. Joy opened her mouth, then shut it again, scrambling for a response that wouldn't make things worse. Sunny attempted to smooth things over. Well, you know, comedians all have different styles. Different styles? Leanne interjected gently, never breaking eye contact with Joy. Is cruelty a style now? Because that's all I've seen from Joy today. She didn't invite me here to have a real discussion. She invited me to embarrass me. And the truth is, the only person embarrassed right now is her. Joy finally found her voice, though it shook with anger. You think you're so superior with your folksy wisdom and that holier-than-thou tone. Let me tell you something, sweetheart. This industry will eat you alive. Being nice doesn't get you anywhere. Maybe not, Leanne replied thoughtfully. But at least nice people finish with their souls intact. Tell me something, Joy. When you go home at night, are you proud of who you are? When you look in the mirror, do you like the person staring back at you? The question hit like a punch. Joy's composure collapsed, the confident mask slipping just long enough for the audience to glimpse the insecurity beneath. I don't have to listen to this, she muttered, hands shaking as she gathered her notes. This is my show. Our show? Leanne said quietly. I think it belongs to the audience. They decide what's worth watching. And right now, they're watching you unravel because someone finally had the courage to tell you the truth. Joy looked toward the other hosts, clearly hoping for backup, only to find awkward silence. Whoopi stared down at the table. Sunny looked away. No one met Joy's eyes. For the first time, it became clear. She was alone. You don't understand, Joy whispered. This business is brutal. You have to be tough. You have to fight." "No, honey," Leanne said softly, almost with sympathy. "You don't have to become cruel to succeed. That was a choice you made. And the saddest part is you convinced yourself it was necessary. When really, it was just easier than doing the hard work of being truly funny." The studio was so quiet you could hear the hum of the air conditioning. Joy stared at Leanne, torn between rage and something unsettlingly close to recognition. Her breathing grew shallow as the truth threatened to sink in. Then the moment passed. Her expression hardened. Cornered, she did what she always did. She went on the attack. "That's it," Joy barked, standing up so fast her chair screeched against the floor. "I'm done with this self-righteous nonsense. You sit there pretending to be some saint of comedy, but you're nothing. A nobody from nowhere trying to lecture me about my career." Leanne stayed seated, calm and composed, her voice gentle. "Joy, please sit down. We're just talking." "No," Joy shouted, her voice echoing through the studio. "This isn't a conversation. It's an ambush. You came here to make me look bad, and I won't tolerate it." The audience shifted uneasily. Some pulled out their phones, sensing they were witnessing something unforgettable. In the control room, producers frantically debated cutting to commercial or letting the disaster unfold. "I didn't come here with any agenda except to talk about comedy," Leanne said quietly. "But if you feel attacked, maybe you should ask yourself why. Sometimes the truth feels like an assault, only because we've been lying to ourselves for so long." "Stop it!" Joy screamed, slamming her hand on the table and sending coffee cups rattling. "Enough with your country philosophy and fake wisdom." "So you think you're brilliant? Insightful?" Joy sneered. "Here's some insight for you. This industry is ruthless. It's survival of the strongest. And the strongest isn't some small-town nobody who thinks she can stroll in here and lecture people who are above her." Whoopi finally stepped in. "Joy, maybe we all need to pause for a second." Joy spun toward her. "Don't start, Whoopi. Not you." "I'm the one with the edge," Joy went on. "I'm the one who asks the hard questions. I say what everyone else is too afraid to say." "Is that what you believe you're doing?" Leanne's voice sliced cleanly through the tirade, calm but razor-sharp. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you confuse cruelty with courage." Joy froze. "You mistake being nasty for being intelligent," Leanne continued. "You don't ask tough questions, Joy. You ask hurtful ones. That's the difference." Joy's face darkened to a deep shade of purple as she spit her words. "I don't have to stand here and take lectures from some amateur who probably learned comedy watching. Old sitcom reruns. You want to know what real comedy is? Real comedy is telling the truth, even when it hurts. And the truth is, you'll never be anything more than a novelty, a cute distraction for people who don't recognize real talent." This time, the silence wasn't awkward. It was condemning. Even Joy seemed to register she'd crossed a line, but her anger wouldn't let her stop. Leanne slowly rose from her chair, her movement steady and intentional. When she spoke, there was sadness in her voice. And somehow, that made her words hit even harder. "You're right about one thing, Joy. Comedy is about truth, even when it hurts. So here's one for you. You're not the victim here. You're not being wronged. You're a woman who has spent so long tearing others down that you've forgotten how to build anything, including yourself." Joy tried to respond, but Leanne gently raised a hand. "I came here excited to meet you," she continued. "I grew up watching you. I believed you were this fearless, hilarious woman who survived a brutal industry. But what I see now is someone who let that industry change her into something bitter. And the saddest part?" Leanne said softly. "You don't even realize it's happened." "How dare you?" Joy whispered. But the fire was gone. I dare because someone finally has to, Leanne replied. Your co-hosts won't say it. Your producers won't say it. But your audience deserves better than what you've become. They don't keep watching because you bring them joy anymore. They watch out of habit. When was the last time you actually brought anyone joy, Joy? The question hung in the air like a final verdict. Joy looked around the studio, at the cameras, the crowd, the table beside her, and for the first time, she seemed to truly see what everyone else had been seeing all along. I've been doing this for 30 years, she said weakly, as if the number itself might protect her. And what do you have to show for it? Leanne asked gently. Really? Because from where I'm sitting, I see someone who has spent 3 decades becoming someone nobody wants to be around unless they're being paid to. Joy's face collapsed. For a moment, it looked like she might cry. Then anger surged back, a final desperate grasp at control. You think you won something here? Joy snapped. You think humiliating me on my own show is some kind of victory? Congratulations. You've torn down someone who was already struggling. That must feel great. It doesn't, Leanne said quietly. It makes me sad. Because I can still see glimpses of who you might have been. The comedian who probably started out wanting to make people laugh, not shrink. But you buried her under years of resentment and cruelty. And I don't think you even remember her anymore. Joy swayed slightly, as if the words had physically struck her. The fight drained from her face completely. She looked around the studio one last time. I can't do this anymore, she whispered. Then she turned and walked off the set. Not in a dramatic exit, but in the slow, defeated steps of someone who had just been forced to face themselves and couldn't bear it. Her heels echoed across the studio floor until even that sound disappeared. The cameras stayed live. The audience remained frozen. Leanne stood quietly, watching Joy vanish, sadness written across her face. Whoopi finally broke the silence. Well, that was something. Leanne, thank you for being here today. Thank you for having me, Leanne replied, though her heart was no longer in the formalities. I hope Joy finds what she's searching for. As the show cut to commercial, the audience slowly began to process what they had witnessed. They had tuned in for light entertainment, and instead watched the complete emotional dismantling of a television personality who had spent decades hiding behind cynicism. In the end, it wasn't shouting or anger that brought Joy down. It was something far more powerful. It was the truth, spoken calmly, without malice, by someone who refused to play by Joy's rules. And that's how a small-town comedian from Tennessee did what no celebrity, politician, or rival ever had. She held up a mirror, and the reflection was unbearable. What do you think it takes for someone to change after spending decades becoming someone they were never meant to be? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.